What's going on, guys? This guy, how you doing? Give me a second to just set up everything. I've just come in to my office. Just give me 2 secs. In the meantime, if you could tell me if you can see this horrendous chart and hear me okay, that'd be great. Got a lot of cleaning up to do. A lot of autumn cleaning to take place. What's up, JJ? Right. Can you guys hear me okay? Can you see the EH bar chart? Let me know. Just let me know. Sound audio, all good. Okay, thank you, Angelo. Right, I appreciate you guys for tuning in. I know it's not easy to come to the desk on a day like today and tune into the markets. These are the kind of days where you basically just want to close up everything, ignore what's happened, and if you're anything like my former self, go to the pub, get pissed, and basically just completely block it out. That being said, by turning up and joining the stream, you're doing a good thing for yourself. You're doing a good thing for yourself in your trading journey. So I commend that. Give yourself a pat on the back first off, and yeah, well done. You're adopting a true warrior's mentality. You're doing the hard stuff, and it's always doing the hard and painful stuff that reaps the most reward in life, and that is pretty much a firm rule across the board, by my experience anyway. So let's get into everything, and this is going to be an interesting stream today, obviously based on what's happened. We're going to, yeah, exactly, we're going to go through everything, and yeah, I hear you, Lucifer. And Angelo as well. Okay, so look, we're going to get into it all. I'm going to start the stream off by showing you guys an excerpt from my Discord group, the private Discord group that I run, the Educational Hub, the Flow Zone, and the announcements channel. You can see that I've said, I'm sorry for anyone that's been caught out here, but personally, I performed particularly well and took a difficult decision in and around my previous tweet, i.e. the BTC highs, as whether or not to enter a short to hedge my 2 longs, XRP and HBAR, or to fully flip and reverse despite the move being heavily counter trend. I took the latter route, built a short position at the highs and closed out any long exposure, setting a net of limit scaled orders underneath the 107k lows and getting filled to exit my short overnight. I'll now be looking to scale back into the long side given the chance and trigger. As always, focusing on what have been the strongest assets and looking to play back into the higher time frame trend. So I never really do this because my sole purpose on these platforms is to educate and not to prove myself. But I thought this time, as it is, it may seem slightly unbelievable to some of you guys. Wanted to post proof as to the positions. So basically this was BTC opening the short at the highs, this was closing that short, and these were closing the long positions that I had existing previously, and it was a very difficult decision for me to take and to make, and yeah, I think the hardest decision in all of it was basically whether to hedge my long side exposure or to flip. And I rarely pull moves where I flip, and maybe me sharing those screenshots of the exact data and details is more to prove it to myself than anything, because for me it was a very out of character move, but one that I thought I'd make an exception for and listen to my gut, listen to my intuition. So we've got a lot of analysis to do on the altcoin side of things. I haven't even looked at anything this morning, so I'm going to go through everything with you guys, firsthand through fresh eyes. But we have to start with BTC and ETH and really recap the whole situation. So I'm going to actually put across the BTC position here. You can see it was ended up being a 6.3R. Extremely fast play out, no need to say that. But yeah, I really wanted to run through this trade with you guys so you guys can understand my thought process as much as possible. You know, this stream in particular, I hope to be extremely value imparting. These are the streams where, you know, like I've said recently, I don't want to talk about all the positions I've been in. I feel that puts pressure on my trading. But when there is something of particular educational value, then I do want to share that with you guys. And I feel like this is 100% one of those moments where you can sort of glean as much educational value and insight from this trade process as possible, in hope that you can extract as many gems as possible and go off and level up your trading game yourself. Okay, so let's take this position off the charts to start, and we exit scales. So first off, I think I'm just gonna ramble here, okay, and monologue, and yeah, just tune in, let it wash over you, and soak it up, basically. So first off, basically, I've been really using in this area here, I think from this range, really using 4 hour as my primary time frame. Now my primary has previously been the 30-minute, and you know, over the last sort of 6 to 12 months, I believe, has been the hourly. But I've been leaning into the higher time frames more and more, and seeing the results. Obviously, you can see off the back of this position how that sort of played out. But the 4 hour here was indeed the primary time frame for execution. And you can see that, you know, first off, we're range bound up here. We took out the highs up here, some janky divergences that took place. There was probably some positive delta in this area, and then came down to test this pocket of weekly entry demand that we've been speaking about over and over again over the last few streams. Now, we came up, we came down, we tapped back into weekly demand. What we didn't do was take out this low here at the 107s, okay? So I'm just going to start annotating the chart as we go and freestyling the analysis, but I'm sure it will start to paint quite an interesting picture for you, okay? So first tap into weekly demand took place here. Second, tap into weekly demand, left this low unswept. Okay, then the third piece of the puzzle. We move up, and we do so with great speed, okay? So move up. Inefficient move up. That's my dyslexia kicking in. So this is a relatively inefficient move up. You can see there are some pockets of demand in here, but if you start going into something like the 12 hour, it is just a very, very sharp move up. Look at this on the daily. There's only one red candle in this move. It's pretty much just been a sharp spike up into the highs, okay? So we have speed, which is the first warning shot here. Then what we have here is, and I'm just going to pull this oval down so you can see it in a bit more clarity. We have spike 1, right? Doesn't take out the highs, okay? Spike 2 does take out the highs, and we lock in the first technical divergence in here. I think it was you, Angelo, that asked why you asked about the divergence confirmation candles in this area. And I said that the first technical confirmation was actually this candle in here, because we took out the high and we locked in the first red candle. And as of this point, there is still, if we go from here to here, and then draw it from here to here, there's a flat top divergence. I haven't drawn it very well, but there is a flat top divergence that takes place. And we have this across the awesome oscillator. So at that point in time, there is the first divergence that's locked itself in. And we have this, very, very importantly, we have this triple drive is what it's called. Triple drive into the highs, okay? And what happens in concert with that price action is the triple hump structure across the awesome oscillator here. Okay, so students of mine, members of my Discord will know that I speak about this pattern rarely, but when I speak about it, I highlight it to a great extent, because when you have this sort of triple hump structure on the awesome oscillator, it's time to pay attention, okay, especially considering this is on the 4-hour time frame, especially considering we have a sharp move up and we have this triple drive as well on PA. So you can see that we also have these wicks here. So we have long tail wicks to the upside. And this is pretty much as textbook as it comes in terms of a potential fade and reversal in the markets. Okay, so I put out this tweet at the time, basically urging people to be very cautious in the markets, right? As we locked in this triple drive, you know, this fast move here, triple hump structure across the awesome oscillator, and we have this curling divergence across price and the awesome oscillator and the RSI, sorry, and the triple hump on the AO. Okay, then we get this lock-in candle here. Okay, so for myself personally, I believe, I have to check my journals to be 100% sure, I was taking first installment on this first divergence confirmation candle here, which could have locked in price and just fully gone for it. Now, first installment taken on this red candle here. I believe I've still got, okay. So first installment taken here, right? Put this in green so it stands out. First installment taken here, second installment taken here on the triple drive that locks in. At this point, my stop is still up here, okay? So I've kept a extremely wide stop whilst building this position. Now, I could lie to you guys and say that my stop was here and that I finessed this with extremely high R from the get-go, but that's not the case, okay? My stop was here, and basically what I'm doing here is giving my trade as much room as possible to breathe, right? I'm taking the decision to fade the higher time frame trend, ignore the way that everything gets skewed here, but we know that the trend is very much to the upside on the higher time frames. So I'm taking the decision to fade the higher time frame trend, and in doing so, I need to make sure that I survive this position, right? A mantra that I've been preaching over and over again in my Discord is survive, then thrive. That's something that I really want you guys to take away. In the initial stages of position building, especially when you're trying to fade a strong trend, build positions with a very wide stop, okay? You want to survive this initial period of the trade. And then once you get further confirmation, if you get, very certain confirmation afterwards, then you can start tightening things up, okay? So for me, that was very, very clear here on this 4-hour candle, okay? So third installment comes in on this 4-hour candle here. And at that point, I take my stop all the way down from up here and pull it exactly to this high. Okay, so now I'm getting a bit cheekier. Now I'm getting a bit more ballsy. Now I'm trying to maximize and squeeze as much juice out of this trade as possible, okay? And when I took the second installment as per this 3 drive, right, I was still, I believe, in my long positions, right? And I think this occurred overnight. This third installment happened the next day. At which point I said to myself, okay, we have so much confidence in this area that, despite me almost always trying to align with the higher time frame trend, I'm going to close out the two existing long positions that I had open. So this, what was intended to be a hedge position, became simply a flip and reverse, okay, where all my open risk is allocated to the short side. I have one position short BTC, and that is it, okay? Now, we know that we have great confluence here, okay? We have an unswept low here. We have also, weakened intra-demand here. On the weekly, we have a sharp, inefficient move up. We have a triple drive on price. We have long tail wicks, and we have a triple hump on the awesome oscillator, as well as having a double divergence across the awesome oscillator and the RSI, with this curling sort of diverging momentum as price goes for two legs, as the RSI goes for two legs here on the oscillator. So tons and tons of confluence, right? I've listed about 6 or 7 things there. To add to that melting pot, we also have the highest positive delta that we've had here, right? As we take out those highs, this wasn't the final sweep, but it was the second leg of that divergence. And this is the highest positive delta we've had, I believe it was since mid-July. So let me go back to here, July the 15th, right? So for many months, right, the highest positive delta that we've had in this area. Now, I've just received a message from one of my good friends in the space who's a fundamental investor, not a trader, and he said, why did this move happen? It doesn't really make sense for it to be so violent off the back of the tariffs, because this move has apparently been I had it here in the Discord. Was it COVID cat crash, 1.2 billion liquidations, FTX 1.6, today 19.6. So you can really see the gravity of the situation that took place here. And he was like, this doesn't really make sense off the back of the tariffs. Yeah, it's bad news, but it's not that bad. And my stance was, from a technical perspective, we have huge suppression here at the highs. We have the most heavily confluent setup on the short side, really, that you can get. Okay, it doesn't really get nicer than this unless you are moving into an area of supply overhead up here. But really, at that point, you're just painting the perfect trade by canvas, and this is really a 10 out of 10 setup, despite being counter trend, and all of these pieces that have come together were the reason that I took the difficult decision, with the exception to completely flip short on the market and try and capitalize on a potential move. I think it also makes sense, and it's a good discussion point as well, to not overthink the why that much, right? And as traders, we should always let the charts dictate our positions and our bias and our gut and intuition. Okay, so yes, this was ugly, but maybe it could have stopped here. All of this that took place, why did this take place? And the why can span to multiple different reasons. Firstly, we know that a larger institutional entity-based organization was suppressing any market buying that took place in this area by way of limit asks. Okay, that is fact. That is printed in the delta. That is not hearsay. That is not rubbing a crystal ball. That is not looking at heat maps. That is not looking at predicting anything. These are, in this way, in order flow, it's called footprints, right? It's the footprints that are left in the sand behind us, okay? These are at face value. These are facts. This is what happened, okay? Lots of market buying took place into a larger market participant, or participants plural, who suppressed this move by way of limit asks in this area, so much so to a degree that this hasn't happened on the positive side for many months. Okay, now if you think to yourself, what's happening here, right? Yes, we've spoken about the stronger hand in the market suppressing, But for the delta to reach this size, what has to happen is lots of market buying has to happen. Okay, so it takes two to tango to create this delta. Yes, you need heavy suppression from limit ask, but you also need lots of market buying. Okay, now think what happens. You've got loads of people buying into this high. Right, when this starts to unwind, you probably heard the term before, trapped traders. They start to exit their positions either manually or they forcefully get hard stopped out of their positions, which then cascades this move to the downside. Okay, so let's say that all of these traders are unwinding in this move here. Right, let's say the first third of this move or the first half of this move even is those traders getting stopped out or manually exiting their position by a market. And there are a lot of we have a lot of trap traders in this area, or it doesn't need to be a lot of trap traders. It could simply be 1 or 10 or 100 trap traders, but just with heavy size. Let's say, for instance, for argument's sake, the likely outcome here is that there were tons and tons of traders here, and again we're seeing that in this tweet here in terms of the liquidations. Right, lots of people are getting trapped, lots of people are getting blown out and on the wrong side of the trade essentially here. So let's say that the first half or third is those traders completely unwinding or getting stopped out of their positions. Then the panic sets in and this just completely cascades as, potentially there are a lot of people in this area, in the area that we're at, that are new market participants, let's say, and they just panic and sell whatever it is, right? I don't want to speculate why this takes place, but it's you're basically seeing emotions occur in real time, and it is panic, it is fear. It's we've had this, we're going to keep going, it's going to go forever, we all need to exit. It's the cortisol effect that takes place, something which is very familiar to myself, as talking about my early years in the markets. I was that guy, right? I was the one exiting my positions through fear, through panic, etc. But essentially what you're seeing here is emotion take place in real time. Okay, it's a sad thing to see. A lot of people would have got wrecked, more people that I care to imagine by looking at this. So me putting out a tweet saying I nailed the move wasn't something which has been particularly pleasant to me, and to be completely honest, I don't even feel very good about the profits that I've made. But I still wanted to do this stream, and the reason I put that message out is because I wanted to sort of glean as much information as possible from this move. So again, you can sort of understand it better and benefit from it going forward, and hopefully sort of capitalize on those moves yourself. So I was aware that there were many trap traders in this area. I was aware of the very ugly price action and the heavy deltas, and I was aware that things were starting to pick up. Right, so I think it was in this area I was like, okay, we're also aware that we have an unswept low here. Let's set some stink scales to exit us out of the position as well. So we know that we've tightened up the stop, but at this point I thought I'd set some scales. Yes, I didn't finesse this as best as I could. I could have done something like this and maxed out completely, but all in all, very happy with the exit. Was taken out by limit. And also, if you notice, just another note on the way that I entered and exited, because I feel like execution is seldom spoken about in the trading space, which is a crying shame. You'll notice that the exits and the entries were both made via limit here, okay? And that's because all of these positions that I built were chased, okay? So if you don't know what chasers are, it's where basically we have an automatic system that trails price by a tick, trails price via limits. So any small spikes in volatility enter you into the position via limit, which is great for slippage and great for fees. So all of my installments 1, 2, and 3 in this area, 1, 2, 3, were done by chasing into the market via limit. And of course, the exits via scale were all limit bids as well. Okay, so I had 30 limit bids spread across this area, which took me automatically out of the position as well. Okay. So that's the BTC trade. Bit of a ramble there, but I hope you got a good insight into my thought process, the difficult decisions I needed to make in terms of flipping or hedging, how I scaled into the position, the importance of building into a wide stop and surviving first, then thriving. Some of the understanding of why this move took place and how this cascaded and escalated, although further onto the delta, I wouldn't want you guys to think too much about that. Okay, so when I start talking about new market participants that then panic and escalate the situation, I really wouldn't get into that area in your minds, okay, because that starts to become fact over thought. But it was something that occurred in the back of my mind in terms of this move simply cascading and escalating to a large degree, which is why I had these stink scales here. But then also, I am very lucky that I placed these scales, right? I'm lucky that I placed them because I don't always do so, right? And it's kind of a lesson to myself as well that I should, because if you want to manually exit a position throughout the trade's lifetime, and this went a different way, let's say it did something like this. Okay, we moved into this demand zone here, we started reclaiming some key levels, and let's say that I decided for whatever reason, let's say in this area here, we started to print loads of negative delta. As we moved into this demand, we also printed a divergence. Then I could have manually exited the position and cut the position wherever I would have wanted to do so, or at least started scaling out, and at which point these just disappear. Okay, so there's no harm, no foul in having stink scales to take you out of position in the case that we get incredibly violent moves. This normally pertains more to the short side, as panic tends to be more aggressive than FOMO. But that being said, it works both ways, and it's just a lesson that it doesn't ever hurt to, if you're positioned in this way, it doesn't ever hurt to have those stink bids in place. Most people think of stink bids in terms of just catching good prices for entries, but in fact they can be very opportune in terms of exits as well. Okay, so that's BTC. Let's take a look at ETH as well. I actually haven't even looked at ETH this morning. Actually, we can just finish up on BTC because this is just a mess now. Let's clean this up completely and look at where we're at. Okay, so normally, I titled this biggest wipeout in crypto history, how I nailed the move, but then also what's to come next. So the what's to come next bit we can speak about as well. 4-hour overextended, 6-hour overextended, 8-hour overextended, 10-hour overextended, 12-hour not quite. Okay, so between the 4 to the 10, we have a plausible argument that a divergence may form in this area. Okay, there's two outcomes here, right? I'd say they're probably skewed to a 70-30 in nature, right? Outcome one, V through reverse. Let's see. So we spoke about this here being an inefficient move, right? Yes, it was. This is far more inefficient here. Okay, there's just nothing going on in the way of supply, sorry. So we could in fact V through this move here. Okay, so if we look at the deltas as well, we have of course huge clusters of negative delta here taking place. This was incredibly important, but as most of you know, when we have clusters, that is even more powerful. Okay, by my books, I love seeing clusters. They have a great strike rate. And I'm just looking to scale back on this chart. Holy shit. Look at the liquidations here. I mean, that is, yeah, proof in the pudding to what we were looking at here in terms of that sort of 19.16 being wiped out. That is being demonstrated here in this aggregated liquidation representation. So yeah, needless to say, we are at a very pivotal time. My money's on a reversal here, right? Because this is a staggering, I think staggering is the right word, as it completely stands out from everything here, amount of liquidations. So number one is V through reverse inefficiency here. Number two, which is the most likely outcome, is put in some sort of divergence here, which is why I was looking at the overextensions. Anything between the 4 to the 10 could pull something like so. So it's like this. This would be incredibly nice to see, and having me flip to the long side, okay? Whether that's taking a BTC trade or using BTC as confluence to try and ride an altcoin. Still haven't spelled inefficiency right there. So that's the number one scenario, is V through reverse inefficiency, and I'd say I'd put this at, let's say, 30%, even despite the horrific liquidations that have taken place. These complete V reversals are much more rare. Okay, they are much more rare. So the second is to diverge, perhaps retest sweep level, then go. Okay, and I'd put this at more 70% mark in terms of probability. Okay. Now, what we'll likely see on the deltas as we do so is a bit of delta that takes place, right? But not as much as this. Normally, the first wipes down in these wipeout moves. The typical thing we see is come down, create lots of delta, either isolated or clustered, have lots of liquidations, then form a divergence, sometimes retest the sweep level, sometimes not, sometimes go a bit further, sometimes front run it a bit. I'd say most often it is retest the sweep level though, so this is kind of the point of interest in terms of the divergence forming, especially considering we are currently up. Yeah, 4.3% from those from that sweep level gives us good room to diverge down there. And then move away. Okay, so normally after these wipeout moves, we have more than enough time to position, like I say, 70%, give or take, more than enough time to position. So personally, what I'm doing is being patient, waiting for a potential divergence to form in this area, managing any sort of, which to be honest, I rarely feel. I'm quite an impassive trader. What I mean by impassive is I don't really feel very much. In that, you know, sometimes when traders were to nail a move like this, maybe they get cocky, maybe they get arrogant and start going, okay, cool, I'm now going to enter onto the flip side and push us up. Okay, we've had the biggest liquidation we've ever seen, get carried away. I'm now going to ride this all the way up to 130. I'm not doing that. I'm personally going to clock off. I'm going to enjoy my weekend. I'm going to wait for the dust to settle on this. Also, moving into, well, we are in the weekend now. Okay, so for the next day and a half, I don't really expect too much to happen, which is again is further argument for situation 2 to play out versus situation 1. But yeah, this pattern is my bet here, across BTC, across ETH as well, and across most of the alts. Okay, so now what I'm looking for is the dust to settle, for divergences to take place, and start looking at playing trades into the long side and repositioning myself. Okay, I just want to pull across the ETH delta. As I say, I haven't checked anything myself this morning, so doing it all with you guys. Just want to see the gravity of the delta here as well. Huge deltas. You can see that already. potentially biggest in the look back. Yeah. Yeah, biggest in the look back. Okay. So ETH biggest in the look back. Again, the same situation in terms of liquidations. Absolutely horrendous here. Yeah, I'm very much looking to position myself long after that wipeout. And if you know, let's just conduct an exercise here and look at the ETH chart on the higher time frames. Okay, so we took out this high here, and at this point I was going, shit, okay, we've done this pretty fast. Okay, we're speaking about speed and efficiency and inefficient moves to the upside. This was one of those. Spoken about that over and over again over the last few months. And what I wanted to see was consolidation in this area, okay, which can still very much take place. Okay, if ETH were to do something like this and just move around here, maybe even then come down a bit and then move up a bit, like, okay, fine, like we're looking great here. And even if we don't even have to be that extreme, we can start moving up, we can consolidate underneath all-time highs, we can go for something like that. You know, that's a plausible outcome here, looking at these deltas, okay, and just looking at the higher time frame positioning as well. We've also had the weekly come down completely and reset itself here on that move, coming from the overextensions as we pierced all-time highs, now resetting ourselves. Now, of course, there is also the argument on the table that this sweep marked the highs and that price completely disregards this delta and starts pushing to the downside. Now, if we don't diverge and reverse in this area or simply V, then we can start exploring stuff like that. At the moment, it's, in my opinion, a fortune favors the bold scenario. And yeah, personally, I'm looking to position myself alongside, but also letting the dust settle as well. Just going to clock into some of the comments here and see if I can answer any of your questions as well. Guarantee there will be one tool on X who says he shorted at 126 at 100x and closed at 101k. I hope that's not a shot fired at me. If so, I apologize. Don't feel bad. Crypto is a PvP game, and the aim is to extract as much money as possible from people. Ultimately, that is the sad truth. Yeah. Gork, you played this really well. I took the short from 4 hour div close at 124.7, but sold too early at 116. Should have let my position run, but I'm not complaining as many people lost money yesterday. Indeed, man. Give yourself a pat on the back. Give yourself a pat on the back. You've done very well, my friend. You've done very well, and it's been great to see you grow and expand in the Discord. All right, I've seen you already change your thought process a lot, and yeah, give yourself a solid pat on the back for that. Keep in mind, stock market hasn't even had the chance to react yet. All eyes on Monday. Yeah, sure. Waiting for the dust to settle is probably a good idea, to be honest. Yeah. Been waiting a long time for a bloodbath, so bad it makes people think the top is already in. And it has finally happened. Now I'm ready for logs. Yeah, and that's just the nature of the game. You know, you have to go through so many of these. I'm looking at my wall of fame up there on my office, which friends and family who come into my office think I'm a madman. I've just got loads of trades and loads of chart playouts up there. Probably give or take 30. And a couple of them are very aggressive wipeouts. So again, this is just one to add to the wall. Thankfully, one that I profited from, and not simply a learning curve. But there you go. I hope you guys are learning from this stream and these examples, and aren't getting shaken out. Giving yourself a pat on the back for still being here. Giving yourself a pat on the back for still learning and growing. And sometimes, you know, you can get to the point, I've been there multiple times in my journey, where you go, for fuck's sake, more learning. I'm so fed up of learning. I know all too well what that feels like, but just keep going, stay in the ring. And yeah, I hope you can extract some value from this stream as well. The last point I'd say would be, don't get shaken out, right? So even if this has been a difficult move for you, right, if you need to take some time, that's fine. You have the weekend to do so, okay? But also be very aware of these deltas here, okay? Be very aware of these deltas, aggregated liquidations, and know that these are, again, very opportune moments to step into the market. So don't let the stress and pain of being blown out of any trades stop you from moving forward, because at times after a streak of bad trades, it is very much the time to walk away and step away. Considering the gravity of these deltas, I wouldn't say that's the case. So BTC, this is ETH, highest delta in look back, highest liquidations in look back. Okay, BTC highest liquidations in look back, and significant deltas, although not quite the most significant across the page, but the liquidations speak for themselves here. Okay, you also have very, very inefficient moves to play back into as well here if we are to reverse, whether it be or divergence based as well. Okay, so do we dare look at altcoins? What do we reckon, guys? Really learned a lot the past few months with you. Feels good being on the right side of the market. I appreciate that. I think the most important thing is just staying humble, keeping your humility about yourself, growing steadily but surely, and yeah, keep soaking up, keep turning up, and you'll get there. Lots of friends I looked up to lost everything, majority of their net worth yesterday, being over leveraged and extremely euphoric. I'm sorry to hear that. I'm genuinely sorry to hear that. Okay, are we doing this? I still haven't looked at the odds, so this is first hand with you guys. Just look at this, man. Jesus. I mean, what? BCH held up pretty well. I did look at one alt earlier, ZEC, just out of interest. Yeah, look at ZEC for some Hovian. Yeah, ridiculous strength. I don't know what's going on with. Do any of you guys know what is happening with ZEC at the moment? Because that is just baffling. There must be something happening behind the scenes there. It just doesn't make sense from a technical perspective, purely technical perspective. BNB daily reset here. All right, we're not even going down into overextensions after a big wipeout like this. We're simply resetting on a daily. Last reset was here, like so, and before that, here. Okay, so both preceded large moves to the upside. Wouldn't be surprised to see that happen again after, again, potentially some diverging that would occur. The 4 hour isn't even overextended here, maybe on the 2 hour. I could see something like this, perhaps. Again, mainly lynches off BTC and what BTC decides to do, and ETH, of course. ZEC is the bull market. Yeah, fair enough. Looks like it. It's in its own sector. BTC, Chrome. I really don't know what I'm going to call this list now. It was the weekly strength list, and that just seems like a bit of a farce at this point. It may actually be prudent to put up some spaghetti charts, some overlay charts as well at some point, and look at what have been the strongest markets in terms of holding up against the bloodbath. H-bar, savage. Absolutely savage. There goes my net worth. As most of you know, I'm 100%, pretty much 100% spot hype. Brutal. Again, a nice bounce back so far on most of these markets. Link, wow, that is surprising. Link was very strong in this area. I expected it to hold up better than this, to be completely honest. So, like, for instance, let's take Link as an example of how potentially this could get played. Right, so Link overextended on the 4 hour. So let's say we're looking for a divergence like this to form. Okay. Does that line up? Yeah, give or take. All right, so let's say something like this happens. Okay, and we have that dip across the awesome oscillator and the RSI, making higher lows as price makes lower lows. So just so you know, at these points, normally I want you to take divergences into areas of left side confluence, i.e. into support resistance, supply demand, taking out sweep levels, etc. In this area, because of the gravity of the situation and the size of the wicks here, right, we have a 55% 4-hour wick. You don't need to move into any area of left side price action. The left side price action is this wick, right? And it makes it harder to build into positions, for the reason that if you were taking this dip into, you know, let's say you're taking the divergence into and you're waiting for the divergence to occur into a pocket of demand, then you could take your long entry. Let's say you take it on the confirmation candle, which is somewhere like this. And then you give yourself a bit more buffer room on the other side of the trade here, right? But the other side of demand, sorry. But in this case, you know, if you get a push away here and you get a divergence confirmation candle, which looks certain, I'd wait for a certain candle, number one. Number two, you're going to have pretty wide stops, right? So maybe something like this. I don't know what it would look like. I'd have to assess the candle structure in real time. But again, I would urge you to survive then thrive, or, you know, in this case, and even if it's not a then thrive, right? You know, in my BTC example, there was good argument for tightening up, etc. And the way that things played, I was very lucky in that regard, where I was given plausible reason to tighten and add, etc. You may not get the chance to do that here. You may do, but you may not. Okay, but you know, however you play these divergences, things are moving very volatile. They're moving very fast. Just please make sure to have wide stops in any of your attempts to try and catch this move to the long side. That's all I'll say. When you say certain candle on the div confirmation, can you expand, please? You're hooked up on this one, aren't you, Ange? I remember you asking this in the Discord. So this was the example of the certain candle here. This candle here. All right, this is a full lock-in. Okay, so at this point, if we go to the replay here, and we're looking at this candle here. At this point, we can't go for a fourth drive on the divergence, at least on the 4-hour, because we've come down and we've passed the mid-level, right? Even if we came down to the 55, that would be a technical reset for me. But at this point, we push so much, right? And with divergences, you want to see that certain push, right? You want to see that certain powerful push away, so you know that the div can't keep diving. Right, that's the classic thing that fucks people when they try and trade divergences. Is the div keeps diving, it goes for a fuck you leg, as it's known, and stops traders out that have put their stops too tight. Hence why I had a wide stop. Hence why I was position building. And in this case, this was the certain candle. Okay, so you get that more ferocious, more aggressive candle. You know, these weren't certain candles. These were just drift downs, and then when this stuff happens, you can always go for another leg, right? Because the RSI has retained its structure. It's still hovering in the extended region. Can go for another leg up. You know, even if we took it to here, let's say we took it to the bottom of this, just about, we could do something like this and still go for another leg and still diverge and this and that, you know. But once you have that sort of very certain confirmation candle that comes in, this was strong enough for me to go, okay, I'm going to risk it with tightening the stop exactly to the highs, you know, chance it that we don't get that fourth drive to stop me out. Yes, I was sweating a bit here, sure. Thankfully, was away from the desk the whole day. I was driving into the city. My baby girl had a doctor's appointment, so I was on the road the whole day, and yeah, didn't have to sweat through this, fortunately so. But that's what I mean by the certain candle there, Ange. Wow, MNT, man, fuck. This was one of the strongest ones as well. Can't believe it came down to even, was it 1.1s? 1.16. Huge, huge, huge moves. See the weekly. Wow, look at that. Into weekly demand though here. Right, still very textbook. And this is the thing when people ask me, why did the move happen? Why did this and that happen? It's, technically speaking, the market's still trading very technically. Right, even though it's a huge wipeout, yes, it cascaded further than most thought, but it's still trading very technically in most regards. This is a very strong market. What is going on here? So I'm just going to highlight the ones that I can see that have held up the best. Certainly this. I mean, in this case, this could even be a trade, to be completely honest, in of itself. Reason being is because it held up very, very well. And something that I've spoken about recently is, opposed to taking the best technical setup, take the strongest market. This is an example of that, 100%. I won't say any more on that, but I'm highlighting this one for sure. Pendle. Again, took out the final low here. Brutal wipeout. It's just the same story across most of these, right? So you can see the difference. I mean, Sol looks pretty good, things considered, but if you look at Pendle versus M, it's a very, very big difference here. Stark difference. Wow, Jesus Christ. I mean, that hit zero. That literally went to zero. What the fuck? TRX, relatively strong into this pocket of demand here. Oh my God, are you kidding me? Like, what the fuck is this market, man? What is this market? 4 hour just resetting casually. Mental, absolutely mental. Again, goes without saying. XMR, not too shabby, not too shabby. XRP, holy shit. Dodged a massive bullet there, as with HBAR. Zoro looking great, looking very good. ZDC presented without comment. Tap into daily demand here, push away. Okay. All right, gents, that's it for today. I hope that was useful for you all. Well done for checking in. Well done for being here. Give yourself a pat on the back for still being in the ring. And yeah, I'll catch you guys all next Saturday, 10:30 in the morning, same time. Now you deserve to clock off. Now you deserve to enjoy your weekend. If you are to do anything, it's journal reflections. But to be honest, as long as you have those details on paper, and you're doing the actual documentation of what happened with your trading, then that's fine. You can take the weekend off and revisit that next week and do the reflections. Okay, as long as you're doing the documentation, that's all you need to do at this stage. Okay, so I'll catch you all next week. Thank you for joining me today.